780,000 years ago, north was south, and every compass on Earth pointed the wrong way. And right now, Earth's magnetic field is collapsing faster than at any point in recorded history. And we only know this because of a piece of pottery that remembers. This is the story of a storm building inside our planet. To understand it, we have to begin with how rare home really is. 700 quintillion. A 7 followed by 20 zeros. That's the estimated number of planets in the universe. That works out to 85 billion planets for every human alive today. There aren't even enough grains of sand on Earth to count them all. And not a single one of them is home. Sure, planets like ours must exist out there. But when we say a planet is suitable for us, we're talking about much more than just the right distance from a star. We're talking about atmosphere, water, chemical composition, the magnetic shield. All those invisible parameters fine-tuned over billions of years. Even if we found a near-identical twin of Earth somewhere out there, we couldn't be sure that humans, as we know them, could survive there for long. Either we'd evolve into something completely different over time, or we'd quickly learn that the planet simply didn't want us there. That's exactly why we have to know our home. What helps it? What harms it? Where it's weakest? Where it's most vulnerable? All of it. And one of Earth's most fragile vulnerability is the thing that spins deep within its core. At its heart, Earth is a colossal electromagnetic dynamo, triggered by magnetism, fueled by electricity, and self-sustaining for billions of years now. The invisible shield that stops cosmic radiation from raining down on us, that keeps our atmosphere from leaking into space, the thing that makes home feel like home. That shield comes from this dynamo. And according to some scientists, something is happening to this dynamo right now. The magnetic storm continues. The disruption arrives. Sometimes knowledge arrives from the most unexpected places. Once you learn how to read, everything around you, every event, every person becomes a source of information. And in this story, the object that hands us astonishing information is something you'd never expect. A simple piece of pottery. Yes, ordinary pottery. The same craft, the same materials, the same techniques used in nearly the same way for thousands of years. Historians study these vessels to understand ancient cultures. But, like we said, information is everywhere. Because the material of these pots comes from our planet itself, they carry a story that physicists, not historians, are after. Because every piece of pottery is, in fact, a perfect magnetic time capsule. The clay, or earth, that pottery is made from contains an iron-based mineral called magnetite. On a microscopic scale, this mineral contains millions of tiny magnets. In raw, unworked clay, each one points in a different direction. Chaotic, scattered, magnetically silent. So the wet clay on a potter's wheel is just that, plain mud. But the moment that mud enters the kiln, something strange happens. The extreme heat erases every magnetic field inside the clay. The page goes blank, and the moment the pottery begins to cool, those tiny magnets wake back up. And as they wake, they align themselves with Earth's magnetic field. Just like a compass needle swinging to point north, Millions of tiny magnets lock into place, all facing the same direction. Once the pot has cooled completely, the job is done. The direction and strength of that day's magnetic field is now frozen inside the object forever. Take a moment to think about what that really means. When you pick up an ancient Egyptian pot made 3,000 years ago, you are also holding in your hands the magnetic field of the year 1000 BC. And when you bring together different vessels from different eras and study them all at once, something remarkable emerges. A magnetic photo album of our planet stretching back thousands of years. And when researchers who did exactly that put the data into a single chart, they ran into something deeply strange. 12,000 years of data. The entire span of human civilization, from the founding of the first cities to right now, all on a single chart. And the graph was screaming one thing. Our planet's magnetic field has dropped over the last 3 centuries faster than at any other point in recorded history. In all of recorded history, faster than ever before. So, is Earth turning into Mars? That's the first question that comes to mind. To find the answer, we have to go to the root of the matter, the core itself. But descending to the core is impossible. Earth's center sits at 6,000 degrees, and the pressure there is beyond imagination. So what do you do when you can't reach the impossible? The answer is simple and audacious. You build a new one. Professor Daniel Lathrop is doing exactly that inside his lab at the University of Maryland. He is building Earth's core from scratch in a smaller and more controllable version. Instead of iron, he uses sodium, because sodium is an extraordinarily conductive metal that can melt into a liquid at the boiling point of water. A massive sphere 3 meters across with liquid sodium spinning inside and giant coils on the outside designed to mimic Earth's magnetic field. If you stood inside that lab, behind thick, reinforced glass, you would watch glowing orange metal spinning with an unsettling hiss. A miniature heart of our planet held in human hands. But what Lathrop really wants to figure out is how this heart actually works, because we still don't completely understand the process that generates our planet's magnetic field. The strongest hypothesis scientists currently rely on is this: electricity generates magnetism, and magnetism generates electricity. This inseparable relationship can build a self-sustaining loop. If you sprinkle iron filings around a coil and run electricity through it, you'll watch those iron filings line up into a clean, ordered pattern that follows the flow. Apply the same principle to trillions of tons of molten iron in the core, a volume 100 times greater than all the oceans combined, and you get a planet-sized dynamo. There is one small detail, though. The loop needs a tiny initial spark to get started. What scientists believe is that this first spark came directly from our sun. Earth's magnetic shield may have been started by a glimmer borrowed from our neighbor billions of years ago. Lathrop managed to recreate that very loop inside his lab, and the result of the experiment was clear. There is only one way for a planet to lose its magnetic field. The molten metal in the core must lose its heat. It must freeze. And this is where Mars' story comes into focus. Mars was smaller than Earth, and a smaller planet cools faster. Its core froze billions of years ago. The dynamo went silent. The magnetic shield collapsed. Its atmosphere was slowly stripped away by the solar wind. When we look at Mars today, we are not looking at a future. We are looking at a past. We are watching what a planet without a magnetic field becomes. A ghost. We have our answer. There is no need to panic, because Earth's core, by rough estimates, cools only about 100 degrees over an entire billion years. It would take billions of years for it to freeze and lose its function. A cup of tea cools down in an hour. Earth's core barely manages to cool that same amount over 10 million years. Long before we ever reach that point, a far more likely scenario is that our sun ends up scorching Earth into oblivion. So we can relax, but the data is not lying. Because remember the pottery. The 3-century decline they recorded doesn't fit the core cooling theory at all. The core isn't freezing, but something is happening. But what? To find out, researchers turn to another kind of time capsule, the volcanic islands of Hawaii. Volcanic islands are magnetic recording devices written by nature itself. With every eruption, the molten rock that comes out locks the magnetic field of that exact moment inside itself as it cools, just like the pottery does. Layer stacked upon layer, like a geological tape, carries hundreds of thousands of years of magnetic history. When researchers dug into these layers, they ran into something that took their breath away. Normally, the magnets in volcanic rock behave like a compass. With small variations, they all point north. But once you go down to a certain depth, the magnets in the older layers were pointing in completely the opposite direction. Wrong. Wrong. These rocks came from 780,000 years ago. And back then, magnetic north was in the south. Stop and think about that. 780,000 years ago, before modern humans had fully spread across the world, if you'd picked up your compass and walked toward what it called north, you would have ended up in Antarctica. At some point, Earth's magnetic field had completely reversed. And what's more, this wasn't a one-time accident. When they traced the volcanic records backwards, a pattern emerged. Roughly every 200,000 years, magnetic north and magnetic south swapped places. Turns out, Earth has a heartbeat? One that pulses 2,500 times slower than ours? And the latest research is now saying this. The most recent reversal was 780,000 years ago, which means the clock is long overdue. And there's a common pattern observed before every reversal. The field weakens first. Exactly like what the pottery is showing us right now. So the truth behind those internet headlines about our magnetic field flipping and the apocalypse coming is actually far more interesting. The apocalypse isn't coming, but we are most likely living right in the middle of one of Earth's once in many millennia cosmic breaths. So, what does any of this actually mean for us? The short-term consequences of a magnetic reversal are both unsettling and fascinating. Because the field weakens during the transition, the invisible shield that today keeps the northern lights confined to the poles is loosening, which means a portion of cosmic radiation can leak into places it normally couldn't reach, lower latitudes, the atmosphere above crowded cities. Some researchers think this could lead to a small but measurable increase in cancer cases. But the flip side of the coin carries an unexpected gift. Northern lights in the skies above Istanbul, above the Bosphorus at midnight, a sky where green and purple curtains dance. What you used to dream of traveling to Norway to see may be coming right to your doorstep. Not only Istanbul, but Rome, Tokyo, Cairo. As the magnetic belt loosens, the light show keeps creeping further south. Still, let's stay calm. This change is far too slow to unfold within a single human lifetime. This is a transition that takes thousands of years. What you might observe in your lifetime is at best the beginning of a trend, never its end. The truly reassuring news is this. Models built by researchers show that even if the magnetic field disappears entirely for a few thousand years, life continues. Yes, cancer rates would rise. Yes, satellite systems would take massive damage. GPS, internet infrastructure, power grids. Almost all of modern technology would be at risk. But life, biological, raw, in its purest form, life continues. We said life continues, but the words "it continues" hide a great deal underneath them. Because at this point, there are two enormous questions we have not yet talked about. First, NASA actually believes it's possible to build a magnetic field on a planet whose core has frozen solid. On Mars, in the most literal sense possible, they have outlined a wild path to building a magnetic shield from scratch. And if they are right, we could be the first species to revive a dead planet. Second, we said life continues without a magnetic field, but which life is the one that continues? Who stays? Who goes? What kind of place does the planet become? What is the real scientific scenario behind a post-apocalyptic film? Both of these questions deserve a video of their own, and we will explore them together. The magnetic storm will continue. And as always, until we meet again, thank you for being here.